Manca circa un minuto al contatto. Sempre se con la mia antenna riesco a ricevere, perché non è tarata per questa ricezione. Riceve benissimo, però non qualcosa che si trova in aria.
Sierra Lima Sierra. Are you receiving? Over. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Golf Bravo 4 Sierra Lima Sierra. Are you receiving? Over. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Golf Bravo 4 Sierra Lima Sierra. Are you receiving? Over. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Golf Bravo 4 Sierra Lima Sierra. Are you receiving? Over. November Alpha 1 Sierra Sierra. This is Golf Bravo 4 Sierra Lima Sierra. Are you receiving? Over. ISS GB4SLS. Great to hear you, Jack, and welcome to the Simon Langton Grammar School for Boys, here in the historic city of Canterbury. Are you ready for your first question? Over.
First question, over.
This is Yusuf. What are the purposes of the experiments you do in space? Over.
Thanks, Yusuf. That's a great question. We do lots of experiments and technology demonstrations up here on the International Space Station because we don't have the same effect of gravity that we have on the Earth. We keep the air at the same pressure and the oxygen at the same level, so as many things are the same, but the big difference between up here and down on Earth is that we're floating in microgravity. Over.
This is Joel. Why do we go to space to do some experiments rather than do them on Earth? Over.
Hey Joel, thanks for the question. When we do experiments on the International Space Station, they're almost always repeated back on Earth as well. So we don't have the effect of gravity quite the same way that we do on Earth. So we do experiments up here and back on Earth and compare the results and see if the difference is partially or mostly caused by gravity. Over.
Tra poco dovrei essere sotto copertura anche io, perché c'è praticamente un astronauta a bordo della ISS che sta facendo una diretta con una scuola in Inghilterra che adesso è coperta perfettamente. Io sto ascoltando lo streaming, però tra un po' dovrei ricevere anche io il segnale in diretta.
What food do you eat on the ISS? Over.
Hi Joshua, up here on the ISS, they send up cargo vessels the oven and it's just prepared, but safely so we can eat quite a variety of food up here. Over. Safely so we can eat.
Abbiamo la ISS in diretta.
Hi, Matt. It's hard to say that there's no air in space. There's just very, very, very little. Most of the air, most of the atmosphere on Earth is held on Earth by the gravity of Earth. So the gravity of Earth is holding all that air down. And it just gets less and less dense the further away from the surface of the Earth that you get. Actually, even up here at 250 miles above the surface of the Earth, we still feel a little bit of drag from the atmosphere. So every once in a while, we have to use our engines to boost us back up to the right orbit. Over.
This is Seth. How
rocket fuel to burn, and so rockets will bring their own oxygen, usually in the form of really, really cold liquid oxygen that they keep on board to help to burn the actual fuel. Over. Liquid oxygen that they keep on board to help to burn the actual fuel. Over. Well, we do a lot of work up here just to keep our laboratory humming and all the experiments going. But when we have some free time, we like to do flips and zoom down the different modules. We also have a little bit of access to the internet, so we can call home and talk to our families. Over. We also have a little bit of access to the internet, so we can call home and talk to our families. Over. Training to go to space is it's a lot of fun, but it does take a lot of time. Most of us had a different career, either in academic research as a scientist or as a test pilot, for 10, 15 years before we could get a job as an astronaut. And then we have to train for at least 4 years before our first mission to space. Over. And then we have to train for at least 4 years before our first mission to space. Over. Launching into space is a lot of fun. You get to go with a couple of your friends, come up to the top of the rocket, and climb into the capsule, and then wait for the countdown to go. And it's a feeling unlike anything else. You've never experienced like it. And the rumble of the rocket, and then the feeling of stage separation, and finally the feeling of floating in zero gravity at the end. It's a pretty awesome experience. Over. And finally the feeling of floating in zero gravity at the end. It's a pretty awesome experience. Over. Living in zero gravity is different than living on Earth. So we have to learn how to do things differently. Everything floats away. You can't just put a cup down on the table. So you have to get used to using Velcro or sticking things down. We don't walk on our feet. We kind of float through the modules and use our hands to push us along. So it's like a whole different world that you have to adapt to and get used to. But it's a pretty neat experience. Over. It's like a whole different world that you have to adapt to and get used to. But it's a pretty neat experience. Over.
Without weight pulling things down on the ground, there must be a
That's an interesting question. I appreciate it. Yeah, as we move around, the friction of the ground slows us down, and the friction of the air that we float through slows us down a bit, but really not that much. And when we spacewalk and there's no air outside the station, there's no air to slow you down at all. So you spacewalk in a sense of how hard you have to push off one handrail to arrive at the next. One of the most interesting things is something that's funny. We're all used to, the ball goes up and then it comes down. So you have to get used to that kind of different flow. But in space it just flies. So you have to get used to that kind of different physics without as much of effect. Yusuf, thanks for the question. We do have some internet. We can connect via the satellites, and so we have the ability to send emails home. We can get the video and call back home as well. So we don't have a limited internet like you do on the ground, but we do have a pretty good connection up here. Over. We don't have a limited internet like you do on the ground, but we do have a pretty good connection up here. Over.
Jack, this is GB4S. We have 20, so please give us all a wave. Are you ready for your next question?
For your next question.
This is John. What is the most
When we get to look out the window, there's lots of amazing things to see. It's pretty impressive to be able to see the world pass underneath you, especially as we're going 17,500 miles an hour. It moves pretty quick. So seeing the different weather patterns and seeing the different geography and the mountains and the lakes, I don't know if I have one favorite, but just to be able to see the Earth from up here is a pretty incredible experience. Over. But just to be able to see the Earth from up here is a pretty incredible experience. Over.
This is all strong. What ordinary daily tasks
I think there's lots of tasks that are different up here that you have to get used to. Mostly being able to take things out of a bag and put them down on a table to sort them out, because every time you take something out of a bag, it just floats away on you, and you always have to have a plan to Velcro it or tape it down. And so if you're looking for something and you're kind of tearing apart a bag to find it, you have to be careful that you don't lose everything else in that bag too. Over. We do a lot of research up here to see how microgravity affects the human body. One of the most interesting things is that most of our body is made of water, of fluid. And so on Earth, a lot of that fluid is pulled down into your legs. because of the force of gravity. But up here, gravity isn't working quite the same way, so all of that fluid kind of shifts towards our head. And you can kind of see my face looks a little bit puffier than it normally would, and you can get a little congested up here because all of that fluid that's normally pulled down into your stomach and your legs kind of floats all the way up into your head. Over. Down into your stomach and your legs kind of floats all the way up into your head. Over. Another thing about so there's no wind, there's no hot air doesn't rise because it's less dense than cold air is, because the gravity doesn't quite affect it the same way. So here on the ISS, it is loud because we have to have a lot of fans on to keep the air moving so we don't get too much carbon dioxide in front of us. So we pay attention to the sound levels, but there's always equipment running and fans running all the time, so it never gets quiet up here. Over. But there's always equipment running and fans running all the time, so it never gets quiet up here. Over.
NA1 SS GB4 SLS. Thank you, Jack, for a wonderful set of answers. Everyone here wants to give you a round of applause.
Thanks for a great time. November Alpha 1 SS, the International Space Station is clear. Thanks for a great time. November Alpha 1 SS, the International Space Station.
E siamo alla fine. Siamo alla fine. Ascoltare la ISS è sempre emozionante, direi. È sempre un'emozione molto molto intensa. Io sto ricevendo un segnale da un satellite nello spazio, da una stazione spaziale. Sembra una cosa incredibile. Bella questa cosa. Veramente è una cosa che mi appassiona, mi riempie ogni volta di emozione, perché se uno c'ha questa passione, c'è l'impatto ogni volta. Sapere di stare ascoltando comunque un astronauta, perché è un astronauta a bordo della Stazione Spaziale Internazionale. Certo, non arriva l'emozione come quando abbiamo ascoltato la Samantha Cristoforetti, ma è tanta roba anche questa. Direi che il tentativo di ricezione è benché riuscito, nonostante l'antenna non sia adeguata a ricevere segnali in alto. La fortuna è stata che l'ISS transitava in questo momento molto bassa sull'orizzonte, quindi andava più che bene. Saranno stati circa 1000 km, 1200 di distanza, segnale massimo, poi di USB, ma chi se ne frega. Sono soddisfatto.